Has any other towns or districts collaborated? I know you said you've talked to SCOG about it. You're convinced the state of Connecticut would look at this, and maybe they should. Waterford, some of these other surrounding towns, they have. Have you spoken to anybody else as far as regionalization, or is, in fact, there any economies to scale or efficiencies to partner with?
Yeah, maybe some buy-in.
You started out saying this question was for Jess, and I think it ended up to be a question for.
Well, I just wanted to know, in her 188, how big is the area that may be served? We're talking about a location here in town that's convenient to people.
Jess, are those clinics, are any of those clinics in a town, a community like East Lyme? You've been here.
Yeah, one's in metropolitan areas, and one's in very rural areas, and one's right in the middle. Our largest, makeup is public sector. So, we certainly have ones that are right around your size, and in cities that are sizable to yours. So, yeah, case studies, I have no problem. I got case studies all day long. That is no problem for me to put together case studies, even specific to your demographic. So I can certainly do that. But yeah,
Jess, have any municipalities paired up or tried? Two or three of them gotten together?
About 40% of our groups and growing are what we call shared clinic arrangements.
Okay.
So we have cities, county school districts come together. We'll have cities that are side by side come together.
And how have those worked out? Obviously, people are traveling farther, but what does your empirical data show when they collaborate or combine?
It's worked out really well. The employees are, oftentimes working in a very central area, but the dependents, might be living outside. So to have a couple different locations, as well as flexibility in hours, different provider selections, has worked out really well. We collect eligibility data, so we're able to do billing separately to track, participants and utilization separately. So it's worked out very well for those groups. That's probably one of our fastest growing segments, is groups that are looking to share their clinic or go into a clinic share.
Well, I think if you can supply case studies, and I'd throw a few in, that there's collaborations of multiple towns or municipalities, however you want to define it.
Jess, I'd like to know what challenges you have with the model. What hasn't gone the way you expected it? Where's the hard spots?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Challenges have sometimes occurred in recruitment. We've recruited in some incredibly difficult places to recruit. We've always been successful. It's just sometimes it's taken a little bit longer. It's oftentimes a lot more challenging in a rural area than a not so rural area. If there's a strong political medical community, then it can be challenging. But we've been able to be successful in those. The only other reason that I can think of that a clinic would not be successful is if you don't have a champion behind it, if there's not participation and really getting after incentive plans. And I know we touched on that a little earlier, and we didn't get a chance to dive into detail, but we have a wellness director that's assigned to each clinic that really works closely with our employer groups to help design incentive and disincentive plans around the clinic, and around their different wellness programs and plan designs, to really incent folks more to get your HRAs, their biometric screenings done, to participate in the health care that they need, to really start to modify their behaviors and change risk. So if we're able to do that, and we have some big believers in the clinic there at the employer level, we found it to be very, very successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if you're asking me, in the rest of your question, Steve, related to other opportunities for partnership. I have spoken to members of COG, and I can say that they're interested based on, how our model goes.
Right.
And I was going to actually ask someone from CARE here to go up and address the COG with this model, so.
That might be an
that's how I
approach too, if you get a few more buy-ins, so you're not the lone soldier in Connecticut.
I like being the lone soldier.
You're a
because
regional man, you know.
Somebody's gotta lead the way, Beth, you know.
I know, and you know, Paul,
I'm happy to do that. So,
You're the greatest champion of that, and it's like, we're not gonna have that. I mean, one of the things that Jessica mentioned is the marketing piece of it. You have to have the buy-in.
well, the Board of Selectmen has bought in, Anna has bought in, I think that the employees will buy in. Again, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, I will provide, as you heard Jessica said, case studies of demographics in smaller and larger communities, I'm happy to do that.
And I would also
And again,
consider.
let me just explain to you the process that I have to go by as first
I know.
selectman. The appropriations process calls for Board of Selectmen vote, Board of Finance vote, and town meeting vote. So we're at the Board of Finance vote. If you want to ask for more information, I'm not forcing you to vote tonight or suggesting that the deal's off if you don't.
We can vote
But-
if we want to.
But, I just soon have you not vote it down if you're gonna
Right.
vote no, because I think you'd be voting down an opportunity. We'd have to start all over again. So I think that if you want me to provide you with information, I'm happy to do so. But I think some of the numbers that you're questioning, I'm not sure that I or anybody else can give you better numbers, because projections in forecasts are based on either historical data or projected income based on a few guesses, I guess, educated guesses.
And
You
maybe
can't-
look at a
You
small
don't know how much
committee.
electricity you're gonna sell next week, but you know how much you sold last year.
Well, right, but it's the
You
same
have-
process. This
Right,
is
exactly.
this is a departure from the norm.
Right.
And there's some risk involved with the unknown, and we don't know how it's gonna go. I can tell you a couple of things that I would like to see that would give me more of a sense of comfort. Is one, I'd like to get a pulse from the town employees. I don't have the sense that people in town would like to have something put upon them that they don't think is a good fit for them. And I don't have any data on that, and I think that's important. So I would like to have, for me, I would like to know how this would be received by town. Another thing I can tell you is, I guess it's a proximity, but it's unfortunate Jess couldn't be here tonight. It was very difficult to hear her, to go through some of these questions. I mean, there was just a lot of numbers read here. I mean, I didn't feel I had a chance to even understand the numbers, never mind formulate a question, a reasonable question. So for me, way too much stuff at once, and it was difficult to hear, difficult to have an opportunity to stop and say, could you explain where you got that number from? Because we would step on each other's toes, and just because of the audio issues. I just, looking at them cold, I don't know about anybody else, but I need time to look at the number, to understand it, to think and ask an intelligent question. Maybe, where did this number come from? What's the basis?
An independent look at it too?
Yeah,
Not so much from the account manager, but like somebody else who could look at that, like an actuary, a risk loss manager, someone who could look at the same data. You have wellness programs that you have. Have you measured, because Paul, you've done a lot of wellness programs, what the impact, are you counting that impact in the numbers? Because a lot of this too, we're talking about preventative wellness, stopping people from falling into that 20% where they're basically draining, using a lot of the funds. What impact on the wellness clinics? They're not clinics, but the prevention measures that you've done in town, have you looked at that and measured that? Because that has had an impact.
That's measured by the increase of costs each year over the last few years that we've been able to manage. The standard increase have been in the double-digit % if you look at most municipalities. Ours have been less than a quarter of that. And that's what the impact, that's how I measure. I don't know that we can measure it any other way other than past performance. We've worked on wellness, we've worked on awareness, we've worked on education in terms of healthcare. We had employees here that work in the public works department, that work in park and rec department, that would usually just go treat their primary care at the emergency room. They don't have primary care doctors, or didn't. So they would go to the emergency room, and there's a lot of them. People in my fish market did that, waiters and waitresses, because they don't understand the impact They needed a doctor, they didn't have one, that's where they went. But they didn't realize the cost differential between treatment at a primary care facility and treatment in an emergency room facility. And so the education on that has helped me as an employer, both here and also at my private business, to develop use patterns that will save money. And that's what we have to change in this country, is working on healthcare. We have to change not only use patterns for healthcare, but use patterns for how we treat our bodies. Because that's really the next step. And is everybody gonna do that? No.
Well, I applaud you for going out to look out of the box and look at something new. I think everybody would say that, right? But
I'm writing down the list of what
I
you
know,
want me to do.
I know. And so I'm not trying to, I'm trying to be balanced about it. I mean, I like that we're trying to think of different ideas. For me, I got to get more comfortable with it. I feel like my responsibility as a steward to the town is to understand this and have a high level of confidence that this is in the best interest of the town, and I am not there.
Hey,
So
I think-
Jessica will come out, I'm sure, next time and be here personally if you think
Great.
that makes a difference.
It does make a
Okay.
difference
Let's
to
make
me.
sure we're ready for her, though, so that we're not wasting
So-
her time.
I'm sure that she will provide information to you electronically I know that there are videos out there, that there are other, but again, those are numbers based on the numbers that you're looking at.
I
Are
wanna-
actual
Well-
numbers based from the town of East Lyme.
I'm gonna write them all down, but one of them is how is it determined, the physician, the licensing, the credentials, who does the background check? What is it really $135 for a doc? Is that based on Connecticut? I mean, maybe there could be even people that work in the industry would know the actual cost. Maybe it's right. It's going to be semi-retired doctors, which there's nothing wrong with that want to make some money to supplement their retirement. And also the malpractice cost that would be included. And
I'm sure
what is that cost
Jessica-
and what is that coverage? What is the coverage amount? I'm gonna write them, because then she can answer those electronically to save time. But also considering bringing people in, having a small committee, having someone who actually runs a clinic or works in a hospital, making sure that the dispensary rules regarding the pharmaceuticals, there isn't any hang-up on licensing that's stuck on us.
We've done that.
We've done that.
We've checked with the
Okay.
state in terms of licensing to make sure.
Very clearly during the contract negotiation process. And just to address a couple of your questions quickly, as I mentioned before, we recruit, credential all providers. We have a 26-step credentialing process where we're looking at, doing background checks and checking their records, seeing if they've had any med mal suits and anything like that. They have to meet our credentialing process before we put them in front of you. Our clients always do final meet and greet or interview, but they're fully credentialed by us and have to meet our credentialing process before they even get to that point to meet you. Providers, the American Medical Association says the typical primary care provider grosses around $650,000 a year, but after they've paid their overhead, they've paid their staff, they've paid their med mal, they've paid all their expenses to run their practice, they're netting closer to $150,000. So if you take $135 and you multiply it by 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that's $270,000. So that's a lot more than they'd be making in their own primary care setting after they're paying their expenses and dealing with insurance.
But you're paying the
so that's why
malpractice
providers
insurance,
decide
right?
to come work at care here and work in the clinic setting.
Your company or subsidiary is paying for the malpractice. Do you have a malpractice company as one of your lines of business? Insurance?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Malpractice insurance line of business? To keep that cost?
Their question regards the payment of the question regards the payment of the malpractice insurance. I think you said before it was included, and I think she's having trouble understanding how we can include the cost of that as it's substantial. Is that a fair
Right.
interpretation of your
Does she have,
question?
is there another line of business within the company that provides medical malpractice insurance?
We have a medical malpractice policy, a blanket one that covers all of our clinicians, all of our providers. They have their own medical malpractice policy, their individual one that they have as they practice medicine, but we also have a blanket one that covers all of our providers that work in the Cure Here clinics.
So you're not in the insurance business?
No.
You-
we purchased that.
You purchase the insurance policy and pay a premium on it, and that's what you meant, the premium for
But
that
the
policy.
doctor then still gets his own malpractice insurance. You're kind of like the umbrella.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Jess, I see the dates on the proposal here, January 22nd of this year, and it was effective until April 22nd. Is there any reason to update this? Is there any additional data? Is it still effective?
Yeah, Anna and I did talk about that. We would like to update it because I know we ran it a while ago. So we're hoping, to get some updated data. We thought that, nothing much has changed in the Cure Here world. And with your inflation rate, your trend being so low, as Paul stated, only 2%. And as you see here, we talked about assuming a 4% inflation rate. We thought we're doing okay. But I'd be happy to rerun it if we can get revised data, sure. But as far as the mathematical formulas in here from Cure Here, nothing has changed on our side. So the PEPM rate stays the same. Our provider salaries, should be close to that too. Those provider salaries assume full-time with benefits, and if you're not full-time, so I would anticipate the salaries would be less than that. So those are pretty conservative.
Thank you.
Well, I think we've beat this dead horse a lot.
It's still a live horse.
In my opinion, I don't think we should take a vote tonight. I think we should provide those of you who still have questions. You all have my email address. If you send me those questions, I'll provide them to Paul, and we can put this on the agenda for and I don't know whether the 30 days between now and next meeting is enough, but I would hope that we could get a lot of the questions answered and be more comfortable.
I'm sure that with the experience that CARE here has in operating the clinic over 10 years, that we can provide all the information for you in time for you to digest it for the next meeting if you like. I think 30 days. I mean, is that a fair summary, Jess?
Yes, absolutely.
So what is the board's pleasure? We have a motion and a second on the table. I would like to withdraw the motions and,
Someone has to make a motion to withdraw the motion.
okay,
I
then
see.
I make a motion that we withdraw the motions, and you have my email address. If you send me the questions,
I'll second his motion to withdraw the motion.
I'll forward them to Paul, and we can hopefully get answers such that it's not 3 days before a meeting, maybe 7 days before a meeting, so we can digest the information.
We'll give you 2 weeks.
All those in favor of withdrawing the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Right.
Opposed?
Nay. Oh, nay.
Of withdrawing the motion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Well, we need more information.
4 to 2?
I think we should vote.
4 to 2 to withdraw the motion. The motions are withdrawn. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much. That's a great evening.
All right. So,
Thanks, Jess.
you can hang up.
We're going to hang up. We'll be in touch.
So,
Bye.
Jessica is not going to be here when we discuss this again. Is that what I'm understanding?
No.
How you understood that?
No, that's why I'm asking it. Will she be able to be here in person or no?
I'm going to have to check with her work schedule, but I'm sure within 30 days she's able to. I don't know where we are, December 12th or 14th, whatever the number is, I'm sure we
But
can
we
get her
are
out.
gonna also request,
I know that we can get her out here. If we can't get her, we've had other members of the organization who are equally well-versed in talking about it.
Mm-hmm. So I can say for me too, some of these handouts, you may be comfortable with all the numbers and where they came from. And maybe, I heard some of them, but I just would need to have them, for me, to be comfortable, to go through some of them again, because I couldn't understand that well, and I don't understand the basis for some of these assumptions. So to be open about that, I don't want to wear everybody out going through it again, but I'm not,
You're not voting on it anyway.
I'm not
Mike.
comfortable.
I think some of the questions that might come your way in anticipation, if you want to do this in 30 days, there was a request for a cross-committee, functional
team
committee team.
Put together to study all the different scenarios.
There was a request from financials from somebody, from the company.
I personally think that all of the requests that you made with regard to information can be in a relatively short time. She said she'd provide the financials and we can provide the justification of the numbers. A committee to study whatever you want to study.
Yes,
I don't know
that's
what
one
you
of the
want to study.
requirements.
I can get a pulse of the employee community. I can do that
Can you
relatively.
do it in a, like
I'll
HR
do that
do a
based on a
survey?
survey.
That's
Am I gonna go ask
confidential?
every person at the high school that teaches and, no, but I'll do a general survey like the Q poll does, and we'll see what people think about this. But a lot of that will come from the generic studies that happen in other towns, so
But
that's the
purely
only
to
thing
me-
that I don't know that I'll be able to provide
Well,
you
that's
to
what
your
I-
satisfaction.
That's one of the reasons why she's voting no.
Right,
and I am
because I
that
don't think
we don't
30
want to
days
come
is
back
enough.
here in 30 days and still feel that we don't have enough.
Again, I didn't say 30
You
days.
did.
30 days happens to be your next meeting.
Okay.
That's
Oh, I
why
thought
we're doing it. If you don't want to use it on, if you don't want to vote on it at that meeting and you have more questions, that's entirely your prerogative.
I just, what I'm trying to avoid is having it get on the agenda unless all the boxes are ticked with 6 representatives here and what we want to understand.
Well,
So, and I
I
just don't.
also cannot, because of FOI constraints, do any kind of meetings and conversations back and forth via email. So if you want to have a special meeting in 2 weeks, and I'll provide you all of that information, we'll have Care here come up and provide that information, and you do more clarification with regard to the numbers. And perhaps I can share with you a little straw poll that I may have taken by the employees at the time, and then schedule it not for a vote that evening, but for more informational, and then bring it at the next meeting, and we can see. That's an option that I throw out for your consideration, but
Would you consider administering a, like, we talked about you know what a Survey Monkey is? It's an online, it's a free tool that you can get on the internet.
Maybe
sure.
Renee can do
But
that.
I'm not asking you whether you want to vote for me or the other guy. We're asking them to
I don't
determine
understand what
whether
you
they
mean.
want to make a decision on a very in-depth healthcare model that I don't think I could do in a 4-question survey.
It's not 4 question. I think what
So-
I am concerned about is I don't think we have an accurate pulse on what the people want. I haven't heard any indication that we've sought that, and I think that's important. Because I know for me, I would want to have as much control over my health care as possible, which isn't much these days. But I would want to be included in on the decision. There's not much to lose by doing that in my mind, and
And I've
there's a lot
done
to
that
gain.
to a certain extent. Have I asked all 496?
Well, no, but I'm
No,
saying
but that's-
electronically, we have tools available to do that. It's not difficult. And I'm just asking if you will consider administering that.
But that's why I'm saying cross-functional, because we need to take a pulse on many of the different people that will be impacted on this. I'm not saying poll 495 people. I'm saying take a Board of Ed member, take a teacher, take, administrator at the school, take a town employee, take a doctor. Have them come together as a group and study this, as a group, and then make a presentation based on all the alternatives that were studied. So now you're saying a lot of that work has already been done, so maybe it can move a lot quicker. If you were to be able to give them your analyses of past insurance studies that you've done, then that would just move the ball that much quicker. But have an opportunity for some people that will be affected by this, have some control over analyzing the numbers and putting forward a
If
recommendation.
you want to get that buy-in anyway for utilization.
I'm sure that we'll get that buy-in. I'm happy to do what you
I'm
provide.
not sure. I'm not
But
sure.
we're providing free health care to the employees of this town for 60 or so % of what they're going to use health care for. Now,
It
I'll
may
go out
be
and ask
free-
those questions.
It may be free to those participants. It is certainly not free to the taxpayer if those participants don't use the service. And that's what I'm getting at.
So
It's
if-
only as successful as the people participating in it.
And
If they
that's-
don't, then the town is on the hook for not only what's in the healthcare account, but the amount of the service fees that we're
Managing
paying to
it.
Care Here. It's
Absolutely.
double.
There's
It's
no question.
double. So all I'm saying is I want a better comfort level that these numbers can be realized. I'm not doubting. Well, I did doubt $180 per office visit. I think that's pretty high.
Right.
But,
I'd
you
take
know, it's not my
380
intent to say whether that's 170 or 190. I mean, I don't care about those details. I just care in general, is this a model that's going to work for our town? And I don't think enough people have participated in the process to be able to say whether it will work or not. And I'm not doubting your expertise, Paul. I'm not. I think you're a phenomenal business person. I do. But you can't control the emotions of the people that are expected to participate in this. That's what I'm saying. And it's only going to work.
I can look at 180 previous experiences through CARE, through these clinics, that have started with the same conceptual seed that we are starting with here, and that have used models averaging numbers of 50% use the first year, but realize actual numbers of 62%. That's out across the 180. So that gave me comfort level to think that 50% of the people here in the town will use it. But I'm happy to go out and ask them, would you come to a clinic for 60% of your needs if you didn't have to pay for it?
I don't think that you have to do that. This cross-functional
No, I don't
team
mean
should go
me.
out and whatever means they have to
Yeah,
take a pulse.
I don't mean me personally. I mean, you asked me
Okay.
to do a survey, so I'm going out there and I'm gonna provide some back information. But so you just tell me how you wanna proceed. I believe in
That's
this.
how I want to proceed.
I
want
will
to get
do
a
whatever you like
cross-functional
to
team.
convince you, but again, I remind you that I'm
6,
gonna
7
convince you of the
people.
financial implication. We're gonna pay this money between now and 2 weeks, or now and 30 days. Healthcare costs are gonna continue to be,
If it's the right thing, it's
To
still
be
not a
extruded.
lost opportunity.
yeah.
You're looking at it as a lost opportunity because you sat with it for a year and you see the savings. It doesn't mean that it's over.
No, I'm
And
not
it may
saying
come
that.
back in a different form.
I want you to all be convinced. I'd love a 6-0 vote here. because I
The
think
numbers
it's the
are,
best.
the numbers are one thing. Another thing is, will it meet that, will it go off like that? Will it actually come to fruition the way the numbers predict? Because that's all they are, is a predictive tool. I think we're looking for more, I know I'm looking for a little more level of comfort, that it will be received the way we think it will be.
So
Can
overall, I guess.
Can you guarantee that you're gonna sell electricity 30 days
But Paul,
from
it's
now?
not the same.
Or can EB
It's not the
guarantee
same
they're gonna
analogy,
put it-
Paul,
It's the
because
same thing.
no, it's not.
Sure
It's
it
because
is.
we're going for an existing system and changing to a new one. It's
We're
not.
No,
We're
no.
not changing anything.
We're not.
We are.
The
We're asking
existing
people.
system
We're asking
stays
people
the
to
same.
change
No,
the
we're
way
not.
the providers that they go to
Yeah.
consider something else.
Here's a few analogies. I've heard a few analogies being floated tonight. Let me give you my analogy. You know, if you have a family of 6, 4 kids, go get jobs in other states because the economic climate is still dismal in this state. Are you going to keep spending the same amount on groceries in the hope that they'll come back and get a job here?
I don't get that connection, but I'm sure I'll ask you afterward. You can explain it to me. You know,
So it sounds.
We're
to me-
paying for
it's-
something in the hope that somebody's going to use it. And
It-
hope is not a strategy.
It sounds to me that what we need is what you, people are asking for is more assurance that the people, the employees of the town will use this. I understood everything you asked for, except I didn't know why we needed a doctor on that team. The cross-functional team.
I don't know. I
You
don't
can
know.
tell us how it works.
I don't know, but isn't that the point? Isn't that the point, to get all opinions as to whether the model works or not?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't know what a doctor would think about. If I did, I would go on the team, but I don't.
Gets one from the walk-in clinic, gets one from the Windsor clinic, or somebody from the community health clinic. That's similar.
Okay.
And you know, she did mention, which I was surprised, the only concern or challenge that she had was the lack of finding doctors.
I want to get the camera on you while you're speaking.
Oh, I was surprised that was the only challenge. I would have thought there would have been other things, but let's even go with that. I mean, I know for myself, I had a hard time finding a PCP because they were all folding up. I don't know where the supply of doctors is dwindling. I don't know where we would get them. I mean,
Why are they dwindling?
because it's a nightmare being a doctor now.
Because
You
they don't
can't
get
afford,
paid. 'Cause they
one,
don't
you
get
can't
it.
They
afford
can't
to
afford
do
malpractice
business.
insurance.
You can't afford the insurance, and you
Right.
can't afford the reimbursement rates the insurance.
Right.
Because
So
then-
wouldn't you take?
They're
an
all gonna
hourly
start
rate
their own
job?
clinics.
So,
If I could put my 2 cents in, because anytime government gets involved in healthcare, it's not a win-win-win situation. as far as I'm concerned. And with the cuts in Medicare, doctors can't even, they don't even make as much money as an electrician or a layperson today,
You seem
after
to-
all those years of medical
I
school.
agree with you 100%. And you seem to be making the argument for this one.
No,
No, but next round.
maybe in the long
You
term.
seem to be making the argument for
I
it,
don't
because
see-
they're gonna come here, they're gonna get paid by the hour, and they're gonna provide their service, and we're gonna be able to reap the benefits because they're providing that service through a self-insured fund at a lower number.
Let me just say that Care Here now is getting paid $135 an hour.
No,
What
the
they-
doctor gets paid.
That's what they get paid.
The doctor
What
gets
they
paid.
pay the doctor is between,
No, the doctor gets paid 135. No markup, no, on any of their stuff. No markup
How
on
do they
gauze
say
pads,
that?
no
They're the
markup on pills.
they're the program engine savings. They don't even want to put their name on it. They're getting paid $172,000 a year.
so after
Right.
2.5 hours, I still
They
don't
couldn't
know all
spell
the
Care
fine
Here.
details, which is why we need to study it more.
They get $172,000.
I'm happy to study more, but one of the problems that I've had with government over the 7 years I've been privileged to be here is that sometimes we study things to death. And we
Well-
don't implement things that we know will work.
I'm
And I have complete confidence that this will work, but I'm happy to provide you with whatever you want. But a task force of a group of folks over a period of months, I think what's gonna happen is 6 months from now, we'll be in the same exact situation with conflicting opportunities. When you have a financial model that we can go against, that's historical in nature, based on 180 units, not just, this isn't the first one today. There's 180 of them that are out there doing it. If this were the first one, I'm with you 100%. But in some places, and in your business, you know, you have to trust the numbers based on historical data. That's all I'm saying. But I'm happy to go through whatever. I thank you for taking the time to consider. It's been a long meeting, and I do appreciate it. I know it's a new concept. I just have been on this a long time, and I know it can work. So,
Speaking of
I
length-
want to watch the second half of that interview with the guy that shot Bin Laden. So let's pass our schedule and get out of here.
Speaking of long meetings, we have more things on the agenda. Go to new business item C, meeting calendar.
Move to approve the Town of East Lyme Board of Finance meeting schedule for 2015 proposed.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. You need to look down to the bottom of the page where the November meeting is suggesting 2 dates, one a Tuesday, one a Thursday. I would take the 12th. Anybody have any objection to that? I didn't hear any objections, so as presented and modified
It's Thursday.
using the 12th of November, 2015.
So that'd be November 12th, Thursday, right?
Yes.
I will think.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. 6-0. Public discussion. Mr. Larkin.
Pat Larkin, 14 Oak Hill Drive. I have a couple comments to make from hearing what I heard here. It appears to me that Care Here is going to get paid $172,000 a year to manage 2 doctors who will be working less than 1,000 hours. That seems like an awful lot of money. One other thing, we have a lot of availability here of options of going to doctors. We could go 7 days a week to a doctor. It looks to me like this program, assuming that 50% of our 4,000 visits or 2,000 visits will all be scheduled within a 16-hour block, that's assuming that everyone's going to get sick and need to go to this doctor when he's open his 2 hours a day or 4 hours a day. Just doesn't seem logical that we would get 50% of our people getting sick on the days that they're available. I think that we need to get a list of where all their clinic locations are. Because if you put a clinic out in Montana, for example, where you might have to travel 100 miles to get to a doctor's office, the town employees might really buy into this, and that could be why the percentage is a lot higher in those types of places where you go into the the southern states where the density is not what we have here. So I think that's something that could skew your data when we're talking about the 62% participation in a year. The other thing, how does a doctor dispensing drugs ensure that there's no interaction with the other medicines that we're taking? I think that's one of the things that our pharmacist does now, because he sees all the drugs that we're taking, and to have a doctor dispense drugs to me, he's relying on me to tell him what I'm taking. And we get some older people in there and stuff like that. Let's see. What's going to be the cost to the town for PM and the equipment and breakdowns? I didn't hear anything about that tonight. And I like the idea of the Survey Monkey of sending something out to all 500 town employees and putting together using the computer and asking them voluntarily to give their opinion on this to see if they would use it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Rack?
Karen Rack, 27 Black Point Road. I seem to have missed some, but came back and it was still going on, so I had to pop out, and that was interesting. There is one thing, and it really, I expressed my opinion at delegations in the beginning, and that still remains. This is a monetary issue. This is all hope and, hope. That's what it is. That's all it is. And a lot of questions Mr. Larkin brought up were a lot of the same things that were running through my mind. That and this I have to mention. I wish as a Board of Finance that you would not, and no disrespect to Mr. Formica, but it seems as if Mr. Formica has too much control on how your meetings are run. This is a Board of Finance meeting. You don't sit and argue your point or ask the First Selectman what he wants you to do, Ms. Picarazzi. You don't do that. You get the information from him, but you're a board, and you ultimately make some decisions. It seems like you've relinquished a tremendous amount of control that you have, and that's bothersome. Mr. Formica is a town employee, and I guess I have to say, with how he is pushing this so ardently, that that someone doth protest too much for something to be questioned anymore. So that kind of raises a red flag with me on a personal level. Nothing to do personally, just with Mr. Formica, the fact that this has got to be done and this has got to be done now should raise a red flag in and of itself. I do believe that this will benefit those employees more that have HSA than the others, because as we see things change with, the HSAs, more cost to those individuals, things that they were promised were never going to happen now are. And it seems to me that if, in fact, this becomes a model and probably utilized by most of the employees who happen to be management that have HSAs, because they didn't have that same bargaining as